Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with yours and the world's favorite bearded man, Bobbbaaaay. Episode 3, we in the building. Let's go. Before we get into today's podcast, I want a quick recap of episode 2. A lot of good feedback. A lot of people seem to enjoy the episode on morning routines. I want to give a quick shout out to Merrick Paynes, Cigar, Anonymous Studios, Zach Tinmore, Cam Mackey for sharing out the podcast on your Instagram story and tagging the Bearded Man. So much appreciated. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to Picking for Gold, who picked up a journal because of the podcast, which is huge. I couldn't actually believe it when he had shared out a post with a journal saying, Bobbbaaaay, I picked up a journal because of this podcast. And so to see this type of podcast affect somebody to go out there and grab a journal and to start actually doing something, actually putting action to your life, that's pretty damn incredible to me. And I want to give a quick shout out to Wyatt Pease, NGK20, GCT22, Joe Togan, and others who have taken the time to write a review for the podcast on the iTunes podcast app. That is so big for growing this podcast, especially since we're only 3 episodes in. We currently are at 5 stars across 12 reviews. So please take a moment today to write a review, and it would be so much greatly appreciated. All I ask, 1 sentence or even 1 word of what you think of this podcast so far. And I would love to get to possibly 25 reviews by the next episode. I know that's asking for a lot. That means 13 of you have to take the time, pull out your phone, type in the iTunes podcast app. It's the Bearded Man. Drop a review, 1 sentence, hopefully 5 stars. And I know that's a lot to ask for, but know that it's just going to help grow this brand. And we're going to take this to the top of the world. In 2020, it's pretty much game over. And we're going to crush it. Really excited to dive into today's podcast. And it's definitely an interesting topic because I don't think I really ever touched on something along this lines or this subject matter in any content that I've created before. Definitely, it's been brought up in podcasts. But I wanted to create an episode focused on alcohol. That's right. Alcohol, the devil's liquor. I'm sure many of you have experienced with it before. You've seen other people have fun with it. You've seen people have bad times with it. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to share some of my experiences, my stories, the goods, the bads, and hopefully provide some value or some entertainment to those who are listening in today. So ultimately, what is inspiring me to want to talk about alcohol? It's pretty right field with, the first podcast was about just getting started. The second one was about morning routines. Sounds like it's pretty much this productivity / self-development podcast where we're kind of going, I think. And I figure, why not go down a different route that I've never talked about anything before, never created around this idea of alcohol. And so we're going to talk about it. And that's how the podcast is going to go. And hopefully you guys and gals are excited. So strap on your seatbelt and let's get to it. So in my 26 years of living, I have seen both sides of drinking, the good and the bad, and I've seen a lot in the middle of it, a lot of mix of good and bad. So you have side one, the side that everybody enjoys so much. The nights out partying with friends, having the time of our lives, and waking up the next day going, damn, that was a hell of a night. We got to do that again. I'm sure many of you have had those types of nights. From experience, some of those big examples for me would be going to Cancun for spring break with a bunch of my buddies from college. Unbelievable. I could spend a podcast just describing that entire 5-day trip, and maybe we'll go down that path another day. Another great time for me was the Bahamas for my senior week of college. That was unbelievable. Most recently, back in June of 2019, I went on a 5-day cruise for my parents' 30th wedding anniversary. So there was a lot of liquor being mixed around there. And then most recently, a holiday party for Liquid IV back in December, the first holiday party that I've ever been a part of for a company. And I would say that they absolutely crushed it. And that was an incredible time. And these good nights, the side one of drinking alcohol, these are the nights that we all see in movies, or we have had the most amazing times with our friends where, we're out dancing, we're singing, great people, good music, lots of drinks, probably too many for most of the time for me. And we feel like we're on top of the world. We feel like life is bliss. We got the nice buzz. hopefully not beyond the buzz and maybe a little drunk, but we're having so much fun in the moment. We're dancing, just having the time of our lives. We'll wake up the next day and we have this big smile on our face. We might be hungover. We might be laying next to our homie or anybody, and we might just think to ourselves, that was an incredible night. We got to do that again sometime soon. And that's the best moments that I've ever had when you're drinking with friends, and it ends up being one of those nights where the next day you're looking at yourself in the mirror going, we got to do that again. There's side two, right? This is the side that we don't like to talk about, right? Side two are the nights where drinking for all the wrong reasons, where we are literally drinking for all the wrong reasons. And that could be trying to escape reality, trying to make ourselves feel better, or temporarily forget about X event that's happening in our lives. I'm going to give you an example. Most of the time that I've ever consumed alcohol, probably over 90-something%, it's for side one. I'm having a great time with friends. We're out having a blast. Sky's the limit. Let's throw some shots back. Let's have a great time. It's never for the wrong reasons. To be completely honest, there have been times in my life where it was this side too. The one time in my life that I really can pinpoint was the spring semester of my senior year. And most people that know me probably don't even know this, except a very few that I've talked about with, or who are kind of with me through this little interesting phase of my life. But it was the spring semester of my senior year. I was in a dark place mentally. I lost touch with a beautiful gal that I had fell head over heels for. I didn't know what I was doing after college. And so there was a lot of emotions going through me. Of course, when you're in college, the weekends come, you're out partying, having a great time. And I always was the high energy, first one to the bar, last one to leave, always in that environment and always enjoying it. But it definitely was getting to a point where it was a bigger issue, and I was drinking for all the wrong reasons. And it was more of like to forget things, or forget about the environment, or forget about where the future is going, or forget about that gal. It was for a mix of different reasons. And there was definitely this drinking period for me was very subtle. Like I said, it wasn't like Monday through Sunday. I was just hammered all the time. But it was like, if I wasn't drinking, I wasn't drinking. But if I was drinking, full throttle, pre-gaming excessively, going out, balls to the wall, and waking up and just sometimes not remembering the night. Fortunately, not doing anything stupid. But I would always make it back to my the house that I was living in at the time, and I would pass out. I was always one of those people that would find a way to get back. I wouldn't cause issues. I wouldn't do anything stupid. But this was definitely a tough time in my life. And I never really talked about it because when you're 21, 22, you can like to keep things bottled up. I feel like you really start to grow up after you move out of your house at 18, 19 for a lot of people. And so 21, 22, I'm still young, but like smarter than I was at 18. And a lot of the emotions or things that I was going through was very bottled up. And like I said, I was talking it through with a couple of people. Definitely my parents had no idea. I don't want to make it sound like I was in the toughest part of my life, but at least in my 26 years of living, this was definitely the 6 months that I was in this weird rut of just definitely partying too hard and for the wrong reasons. It was to enjoy the time with my friends that I was in college with, that we were celebrating our last semester. But also at the same time, it was like trying to not stress about events that were coming, things that were happening in my life. And so it kind of became drinking for the wrong reasons. And, now I'm so comfortable with sharing my voice, sharing my story, sharing my experiences in podcasts and through all the content. But back then, like I said, I wasn't comfortable with doing that. And now I feel great when I do this stuff because I feel like it's a therapy session. I feel like I'm just owning up to who I am and what I've been through, and really in the hopes that, a lot of these podcasts are entertaining to people for all the right reasons, but also hopefully it's insightful and helpful to people out there. But yeah, it was an interesting time. So we have side one, the great, side two, the bad, and then we have side like 2.5. that I kind of think of as these are the people who become the weekend warriors, right? So we're drinking for the right reasons. We're drinking for the wrong reasons to escape. And I guess it should be side 1.5 now that I'm thinking about it, because it's right in the middle. This is the weekend warriors, right? Friday night through Sunday, it's full throttle partying to escape the misery of the weekday career, which is scary. I'm not here to tell people how to live their lives, and I know everyone has different situations. I hope that people really believe in themselves enough that they can find a career that they love to work every single day, Monday through Friday, Monday through Sunday, whatever your schedule is. So I'm not here to say you got to find a new job, blah, blah, blah. But I know there is a majority out there who live through the Monday blues, Wednesday hump day, thirsty Thursday, and then it's Friday. It becomes this full throttle partying for trying to forget about the weekday, Sunday night scaries, quote unquote, and then back to the grind Monday. And then it's just this big cycle. Now, don't get it twisted. I enjoy my personal time. I like having time to myself. And if that's what you like doing on the weekend and you love what you're doing during the weekday, just ignore what I'm saying. But I think we need to be aware, and there's people out there that are doing it excessively during the weekends to forget about what happened during the week, and then they're going through the Monday through Friday grind, and it's just this continuous cycle. Once again, this entire podcast is talking about alcohol, and so I'm just trying to paint pictures of kind of what I've seen and what I've learned out there. So if we're in that instance, if we're partying all week long and if we're working all week long and then we're partying all weekend, when is there ever going to be time to figure out what you want to do, right? It's this continuous cycle, like I was saying. 3 months pass, 6 months pass, 9 months pass, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years. I think we've heard stories before where, I wish I could have done this. I wish I could have done that. And I really do believe that everybody has the ability to find that one thing they really want to do. And that was really why I cut back drinking a lot in the last couple of years, as I'll get into in a little bit, was because I needed to figure all this shit out. And I knew that if I was wasting time and money and energy at the bar, it was just pulling away from me really figuring this shit out. So it's, outside looking in, you could say, Bobbbaaaay, you're lucky. You found, your great job at Liquid IV. You're lucky with all the guests that you've met. Luck does play a role, but at the same time, I was setting myself up for the best opportunities possible because I was so focused in on what I needed to do. I was cutting out things that weren't actually, bringing value to my life or weren't actually getting me closer to what I was working towards. So we could say it's luck, but, there's a lot of factors that play into it. So as I've said, now that I am who I am and I enjoy creating content and I enjoy sharing, I just figured let's talk about it. This is the new podcast. This is a platform where I'm just going to be sharing my insights and my thoughts. Let's, lights, camera, fire up the mics. The Bearded Man's here, and let's let it roll, baby. So here's the scary truth. I've had family members that have lost their lives to alcohol. I had an uncle who drunk drove himself and killed himself into a tree when I was in high school. That was, really tough at the time. Rest in peace, Joe. I've had uncles, family members, or people that I know who have gotten DUIs, who have lost careers because of alcohol, who've caused emotional and financial issues to their loved ones because of it. This liquid can really become an issue when it becomes part of somebody's daily life. It can really screw up everything. Careers, relationships. It can really get into this ugly spot and somewhere that nobody, I think, ever wants to be. I never wish to see anyone in these situations, first off, right? Like, I think that's the important thing. You have to talk about things before they happen so that we can address these issues and we can hopefully prevent ever being in these situations. And I was having a conversation with my father the other day, and I was telling him, we were talking about just alcohol and consumption, and I wasn't thinking this way a couple years ago, but it's like life is so beautiful with how there's just so much beauty in this world. Just movies, reading books, outdoors, whatever your passions are, whatever you enjoy to do, there's so much beauty in this world. And we have this finite little bit of time to actually enjoy these experiences that the last thing we want to do is to waste it away by drinking it away, by guzzling back this liquor, this beer, this wine. It's all about moderation, as we'll get into. very much moderation. I'm not here to say don't drink alcohol. I'm just saying be aware of what this thing can do. It's legal if you're 21 and over. You can go to any liquor store and buy anything that you want in as much quantity as you want. But consuming it, how often and how much, can really, really affect your life. And I've seen it, and it's just ugly. And it's ugly, and I hope that talking about it is just bringing awareness for people. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Not happy with what I'm about to say, but it's the truth. And I'm not going to sit here and talk about this subject and not be real. When I was in my late teens and early 20s, I for sure got behind the wheel when I shouldn't have, or when someone else shouldn't have. So I've been behind the wheel when I shouldn't have been driving because of alcohol, and I've been in a car with somebody that had consumed alcohol more than they should have to be driving. I've done it. I'll be the first to admit it, and I'm not proud of it. I'll own up to it. That I've done it. I mean, there's nothing else I can really say. Fortunately, nobody has ever gotten into. Fortunately, in any of those moments that I've been in there, and in these moments, it's never caused harm to anybody else. It's never caused harm to me, and that doesn't make it okay. But thankfully, it never happened, and now I'm doing my best to never be in those situations again, because I'm so much more aware of who I am and how and finite this life is, as I was talking about before. And I remember growing up, my parents would talk about, or maybe my father more specifically would always tell, when I was definitely in my late teens, I was once in your shoes. You think you're invincible, you're not, and we're not, right? We think that just this one time we'll get away with it. We're not going to hurt anybody. We have no control of that. We have absolutely no control of that. And I'm sure we've all heard those stories of the great person who makes one small bad decision that ruins them for the rest of their lives. And if it happened to somebody, it can happen to any of us. That's the scary truth about it. It can happen to literally any of us. And the only way to avoid that situation is to be proactive and make these smart decisions. And as I said, I've been behind the wheel. I've been behind the wheel of other people. The past is the past. There's nothing I can do about it. There's not anything I can do to go back there and change it. But I can own up to it, and I can make better decisions moving forward. The only thing I can control is where I'm at today and where I'm going. And so that's all I can do. All I can control is this very moment, to not make these stupid decisions that I made when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and to make sure that I don't do this moving forward. There have been times where I drank beyond my limits, right? I have drank way beyond my limits to the point of essentially blacking out, waking up the next day going, I don't remember a thing, and having to gather the pieces to understand what happened the night before. And most of the time this ever happened in my life, it is absolutely unintentional. My biggest problem is that when you give me a liquid, I just tend to consume it quickly. This could be water. This could be milk, coffee, alcohol, any type of liquid. If you hand it to me, I drink it, okay? I'm not the guy out saying, everybody, grab your drinks, throw them back. It's time to black out. It's not ever the intention, and I don't think that's the intention for anybody, except if we go back to that side too, where tough moments in our lives and we're trying to escape, that's when it's a really big problem. But for myself personally, I've never intentionally went into the night like it's time to black out. It's only happened because I when I'm in high energy environments and I'm having a great time, I lose track of how much I'm consuming and how quickly. And so, need another drink, need another drink. I'm having a good time. I'm dancing. I'm talking to this person, talking to that person. Oh, she looks cute. Nice. How's it going? Doing this, doing that, grabbing some food. All of a sudden, boom, lights out. Houston, we have a liftoff. The engines have roared. At this moment in time, I'm now on Mars, and there's no point of return back to Earth until tomorrow when I'm sobered up. And it's scary because I'm a freight train, right? When I get going, there ain't no stopping. Full speed ahead, and it's not good. It's not good. It's been there. I've been there, and I've done that. And so, yeah, not intentionally. It's not like I'm out here trying to black out, but there have been those times where I lose track of how much I'm consuming. I'm not aware of how much I'm consuming, and so it just gets into a real space where I wake up the next day and I'm like, damn, I shouldn't do that again, and it ends up happening down the road again. So I didn't learn my lesson. As I said before, towards the beginning, I've used it as escapism. Not so much, but I have used it in the past where I'm just trying to forget about something that's recently happened. I'm stressed out, and I'm trying to make myself feel better. And I think a lot of times we're drinking alcohol to make ourselves feel better. When I think it's a it actually doesn't make us feel better in the long term, right? In this very moment of drinking, you get that buzz. You feel great. That's like the ultimate feeling of alcohol. You get the buzz, you feel great. You're like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's go have a good time. Boom. Then you get drunk. And then at that point, you just keep consuming because once you get going, like as I said, it's a freight train. You can't stop it. And that's when it becomes a problem because you just go. And then you wake up the next day and you're like, what the hell just happened? I think once again, being in my 20s and keeping it to myself, most people might not have known I went through those couple of moments. But the best thing to do is now talk about it to show that we all go through our own experiences in this life. When the liquor becomes an outlet to escape, that's the huge problem we need to address before it leads to other bigger issues. If alcohol is somewhere that we are using it to just escape reality, escape the bullshit that we're dealing with today, that's when it's a problem or it could become a bigger problem. And so we need to address it. But as I said, drinking to escape has never helped because you go through that whole phase of feeling buzzed, you feel great. But it's when you wake up the next day, you feel worse off than you did before, right? You feel worse off than you did before that first drink that you had. And now you're hungover. You feel like shit. The day's going to be a waste because you're just laying around. You don't feel good. And sometimes this can lead right back into picking up the bottle, the drink again, which then starts the domino effect of going back down this road that you don't want to go down. And if you've never been in that situation, I'm sure you've seen it happen for other people, and it's not good. It's scary. There were those weekends when I was in college. It's like we'd wake up from Friday night partying, crack open a beer at 9, 10 a.m. the next day, and go right on through till Sunday. In those moments, we were having a blast. It was for the right reasons. Not the right reasons, but we were there to have fun and to enjoy ourselves and be 20 and dumb and make stupid decisions. But I think it can be a bigger problem when you're drinking to escape reality and you're trying to numb yourself from things that you're currently dealing with. So what I've realized about myself when it comes to alcohol is that I do enjoy a casual drink. I like the taste. I really do. I'm a big craft beer guy. I don't like tequila. If you hand it to me at the bar, it's going to be hard for me to refuse it because I feel like that's you got to be a nice person, and somebody's buying you a drink, you got to do it. Am I going to go to a liquor store and buy a bottle of tequila? Absolutely not. And I love Jameson. Irish whiskey. See that? The bearded man with the orange beard with the brown hair. Doesn't make any sense. I'm a Jameson guy. And I have to give that to my cousin Julie Sober, who put me onto it back in the summer of 2015. And now I love Jameson. I don't drink it all too often, but I do like and enjoy Jameson. So what I've also realized about myself is that I can only drink in moderation. Going back to those early 20s, freight train, once it gets going, it's hard to stop. I can't do that anymore. And I know because I realize that, I need to drink in moderation, and I need to be very conscious of how much I'm drinking and how fast that is. Because if I don't, it gets down this dark path in somewhere that I don't want to go, and I wake up the next day, I'm hungover, I feel like shit, blah, blah, blah. We all know that story. So sometimes what I've realized, it's better for me to just not touch it. And instead of me debating, I could just have one more. Because once you get a couple in you, if you've drinking alcohol before, once you get a couple in you, you feel loose, you feel good. I could have one more. I could have 2 more, 3 more, and then it keeps going. Sometimes I realize, don't touch it at all. Stop yourself from even having to debate, should I drink, should I not drink? And then you just completely eliminate, should I have one more, should I have one more? I've also realized that alcoholism is a disease. I think, I don't know scientifically, so don't quote me, but I think that can be something that's passed on through blood, through family. And knowing my family history, I think that some type of it is in me, but I'm much more aware of it, and I'm able to be ahead of the ball and stop this from becoming a bigger problem. And seeing family members of mine and seeing what other people have gone through, it's not cool, man. It can really, really hurt people. And I just feel very fortunate that I'm aware of it at 26, and I've gotten much more aware of it over the last couple of years. And the reason I started to be much more aware of how much I was consuming started when I moved out to LA. That was the shift. A lot changed about me when I moved out to LA, the whole morning routines, being much more health conscious. But a couple factors that led into it, as we'll get into after this high quality H2O break. Think about doing these solo pods. You're the only one talking, so it's like you got to keep talking. Otherwise, people will be like, yo, there's nothing to listen to, so it makes it fun and interesting. Anywho, we're here in the bed rodeo cooking up. So the shift started to happen when I moved to LA in 2017. Big reason for that, I moved in with my good pal Dylan, my best friend that I grew up with, who's never drank, not a sip. Never drank a sip of alcohol, sober all of his life, has never touched it. And then my other roommate, Steve, who very rarely does, living with somebody who never drinks and also somebody who rarely does, it pretty much was like I had to go out of my way to drink if I wanted to. And if I did want to go buy some booze and bring it back, I was pretty much going to be the only one, which is kind of weird and lonely. So if neither of them was drinking, I never felt the itch to do it because I felt like I was the outcast. I'm sitting there drinking by myself with these guys. It's kind of lame. You're just sitting there boozing. They're just like, yo, what up, bro? You feel good? You drunk? No, it's not fun. I do have a deal with Dylan. Dylan, I hope you hear this. Probably not. But fingers crossed, one day he will at least enjoy a glass of champagne with me when we secure the big bag in the future. Like something like in the Millionaire Boys. That would be fire. Hopefully we make it happen one day. Anyway, I'd love to have just a glass of champagne with him and never bother him again for the rest of his life. Anywho, so I moved out to LA in 2017, cut back on drinking a lot. But there was especially one moment where I was like, oh yeah, dial it back, B.O.B., time to cut back. First night, we went out in LA. We went to this legendary venue club called the Roxy. It's in West Hollywood. And for those who don't know, it's a legendary venue. Concert venue downstairs. They've had everybody that you can imagine that has had any success as a musician to, going up in their career, and then probably towards the end of their career, they've played at the Roxy in LA. It's an iconic venue, but upstairs is this like private-ishy club that a lot of celebs and, the who's who go to here and there. So we go there this night. I have a buddy of mine named Noah at the time who was a bartender there. So it was always good to get in there, and he was always there to hook the boys up. But this one night, now that I'm now living in LA, got a lot of emotions running in me. Like I said, when I'm in the high energy environment, I tend to lose track of the amount I'm drinking, and it's just the liquor goes down fast. We're having a blast. I'm like, yes, I live in LA now. This is literally my biggest dream come true. And so luckily I didn't do anything stupid that night. But the next morning when I was talking to Dylan, this was one of those nights where I could remember phases of who was at the bar, but I couldn't remember what happened, unfortunately. And so talking to Dylan the next morning, he's rambling off all these like people that were there, people that at the time when I was podcasting for Purpose in the Youth, I would kill for an interview with. And as he's going through these names, I'm like shooting myself in the foot like, you idiot. If you would have been on your A game, you could have just went up and introduced yourself, okay? Now, listen, I'm not saying I would have locked in any deals or they would have said yes to my podcast. But you put me in the game, coach, I'm ready to go, okay? I'm ready to take a swing. I'm ready to approach somebody and say, what up, introduce myself, not overdo it, not like be a big fangirl or whatever. But I know how to carry myself in these environments. And so when I learned who was at that bar that night and how stupid I was because I was just too caught up in drinking and having a good time. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. If I keep doing this, I'm only going to continue to miss out on bigger opportunities in LA. So I cut back big time. I think for like the next 9 or 10 months, it was very rare that I was going to have more than a couple of drinks if I was out, because I just was like, I need to be on my A game. I need to be ready to approach somebody. And the last thing I want to do is look like an idiot. And so it completely shifted my next year, 2 years up until now of living in LA. You never know who you're going to run into. Be on your A game, be smart. I think another thing that played a huge factor was driving for Uber. The best time to make money was on the weekends. 9 times out of 10, I was driving every single Friday or Saturday night to 11 p.m. And by the time I'd be done working, I went straight home and I would go to sleep. And then the next day, I'd usually get back up and get back on the road. So fortunately, not actually going out those times of the week and being working and, making money to invest in myself, I wasn't around these opportunities to get stupid drunk, because most people aren't doing this stuff Sunday through Thursday. It's Friday and Saturday. And most of the time I was working. So it was good. I think the big key, similar to what I was saying about Dylan and Steve, was that I started surrounding myself with go-getters, winners, and passionate people. I think this was the biggest hack. I was surrounding myself with people that were so busy, so focused on chasing that thing that they are so passionate about. They didn't have time, energy, or money to waste on something that is going to distract them from chasing their goals. They would much rather be in control of themselves and their actions than drink alcohol, make some bad decisions, waste their whole day away the next day. Because it's not only just wasting the next day, right? It's not just, it's just one day. You do that a couple times over the course of a couple months, over the course of the year, over the course of 2-3 years. You're talking about weeks at a time that could be pulled away from you working on yourself, bettering your craft, trying to build that business, trying to study for exams, whatever it might be. It ultimately in the long term can take a lot away from you. And so just being around these go-getters and these people that were so passionate, they didn't feel the need to drink because they were so focused on what they needed to do. And so I started paying attention and realizing, like, if they're not drinking, I don't need to be drinking. If they're at this networking event with open bar and they still don't have a drink in their hand, I don't need it. I need to be focused on myself. I need to focus on what I need to do. Also, one big realization that I started to realize too was that alcohol can bring people together and make for an enjoyable night, but it also can be the only reason people come together. Now, it sounds crazy, right? People would come together for this common goal to drink, to go out, to do dumb shit and call it a night. Like I've said, and let me remind you, I've been there and I've done that. Cool. Let's make sure that I'm not sitting here pointing the finger at people listening or people out there. I've done it right here. Put an arrow on me. The Bearded Man's been there, and I've done it. Fortunately, we closed that chapter. We're on to the next one. And as an Uber passenger once told me, bad decisions make for great stories. And believe me, I have a lot of great drinking stories for sure. I'm just happy that I flipped that chapter. But a good way to look at it is if you remove the booze, right, would you still be friends with these people? Would you still be in touch with these people? That's the scary part, because I think a lot of times for most people, they wouldn't. This is just an environment of people that have this common goal to go out and have a good time. But other than that, there's not that many common passions, similarities. It's just this common thing we're here to do, and it's that liquor, it's that alcohol. We're here to just get drunk and have a good time. Once again, it's fine to have these people that you enjoy going out with, but are they people that in the long term you're going to stay in touch with? If that alcohol got removed, would you still be friends with them? Is it worth you spending that time and energy hanging around people that the only thing we have in common is that we go out together? I don't know. It just been there, once again, been there, done that. And now looking back, it's like, I don't regret anything, but that's only going to be okay in the short term. In the long term, those relationships are going to sizzle. So most of the time that I do drink nowadays, it's more of a treat to myself. It's for crushing through a successful week, right? Like on a Saturday night, I might sit back and enjoy a couple beers, and it feels good because it's a reward to myself. I crushed the week. I put it all on the line. I went full throttle, and I did what I had to do. I just try to make this more of a reward to me than anything else. And so I think that's the right way to approach it. Alcohol, in one way, could be a reward for celebrating life, for celebrating big events. It doesn't need to be this thing that we incorporate into our lives on a daily basis. Once again, this is just my opinion. Take it for what it is. I'm not here trying to tell you guys and gals how to live your life. I think the biggest shift that I've had with alcohol was doing Sober October in 2019. That was incredibly changing for me, and I just started to see alcohol so much differently. I became familiar with this idea of Sober October from Joe Rogan's podcast, and I never considered it. He had talked about it the last 2 years as I was listening to his podcast, and I thought it was such a great idea, but I never was like, I need to do it. And it wasn't until I was back home this past September for a charity golf tournament and a wedding, and towards the end of the vacation, I woke up the next morning, I was hungover, and I just said to myself, I'm doing the Sober October. It was 2 or 3 days away from October 1st. I just said, you know what, screw it. I feel like shit right now. It was at the time I was trying to figure out this next career opportunity. It was right after this conversation I had about opening my eyes of I need to get off this Uber grind. I might have to put the podcast on pause. So the timing was also I need to step away from everything. I need to get really clear-headed, and I need to figure out this shit of what I want to do with my life, or at least what's the next chapter looking like. So I cut out the booze. 2-3 days in, I fly back to LA. I remember I had a 4-hour delay in Denver airport. And I was like, man, it would be so nice to just have an airport beer right now. I had 4 hours to kill, but I stuck to the plan. I told myself, if I'm going to do this, I need to commit. And so for 30 days, I didn't sip any alcohol. Nothing. I can go to the grave, and I promise you, I did not touch any of it. I told myself I'd commit for the 30 days, and I had my eyes on the prize. And little did I realize that committing to this 30 days was about to teach me so much more than I ever could have realized. I just thought it was going to be a good reset. It's going to save me some money. It's going to make my body feel good, and that was it. But after 1 week of doing no booze, it got a lot easier. If you can do 1 week, you can do 2. If you can do 2, you can do 3. If you can do 3, you can do 4. I was just looking at it as baby steps. 1 day at a time. You don't need to touch it. And so after the 30 days, looking back at the benefits, I was like, wow, this is actually life-changing. A couple things. One, I slept better every night. I slept better than I had ever done before. I saved money because I wasn't out spending $8-10 a drink, especially out in LA. I wasn't spending money, especially on Ubers too, right? To go out to the bar to come back. If you're not going out to the bar, you're not spending money at the bar and on the Uber. So that was great. I didn't waste time rolling around in bed the morning after drinking, hungover and unmotivated. That whole day would sometimes be wiped out because you feel like shit. I made better eating decisions because I wasn't caving in because of the munchies. That was huge. I was making much more conscious, better food choices. Whereas, you've been drinking, you have a couple drinks in you, you're like, I could do a slice of pizza. Sometimes the greasy food helps you with the hangover the next day. So you're like, fuck it, I'll just drink or I'll eat whatever I want. My energy levels were at the same, consistency throughout the day, every day. Now that, I felt the same way every day because I was eating the same. I was eating clean. I wasn't drinking, and I was working out. I had better headspace to think and create, which is obviously important as a creator. And as I was in the moments of trying to figure out what the next chapter was for me, this was right leading up to getting the offer from Liquid IV, so the time couldn't have been better. But the biggest realization that I had is I didn't need to survive. I didn't need alcohol to survive. The amount of people that would chime in when I was posting every so often about the Sober October, it kind of made me cringe when people were like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't cut out the booze. I was like, man, that's a problem. You really think you need it. I mean, you spend the first 15, 16 years of your life without touching it. Some people test it early, 14, 15, 16. Some people don't touch it until 21. Some people not until maybe never. But you lived the first at least 15 years of your life not drinking, and you lived and you survived. You don't need it. And so it just so happens that November 1st, the end of Sober October, was on a Friday. It was the end of Sober October, and it was the end of my first week at Liquid IV. And so you better believe the boy went out, bought himself a six-pack, came back, watched some movies, and I enjoyed myself. Had that first beer, and I patted myself on the back like, you did it. You did 30 days. Do I ever see myself completely cutting off drinking? Good question, right? I considered towards going into the new year. I was real lightly considered. I was like, could I do a whole year, 2020, no alcohol? And I even mentioned it to Dylan, my roommate. And you know what? It's like, now that I'm so much more conscious and I'm so much more aware of what I'm consuming and how much of it, I don't think that's the move just yet. I think maybe at some point in my life I might go for it. But I truthfully do enjoy a cold one in moderation, especially when I'm with a great group of people and it's very casual and I'm much more aware of how much I'm drinking. I'm not there just like throwing back, just like enjoying it, just enjoying a nice beer, a nice drink, and it's totally okay. But this is the key for me. It's not necessary, but it's the cherry on top, right? It's not necessary, but it's appreciated. I don't mind it. I like it when it's there, but I'm not going on my way to get it. It's much different than I was a couple years ago, but I enjoy it. And to be honest with you, the recording of this podcast right now, it's January 12th. Since the start of the new year, I've only had 2 beers. That's it. Nothing else. No liquor, no nothing. I've had 2 beers. Now, am I a psycho for counting? You might think so. You might be like, yo, this guy's counting his beers? What the hell? But it goes back to what I was saying earlier. I'm much more aware of how much and when I'm consuming it because I know that it can be a problem for me. I know that if I slip, it's going to be a bigger problem because I know it's in my blood. I've seen and I've witnessed it and for experiences for other people, and I want to stay away from that ever happening to myself. And so I'm aware of how much I'm consuming. I'm not sitting here keeping a tally for the whole next, for the rest of the year of how much alcohol I consume, but I just know from the start of the new year, I've consumed 2 beers, and that's it. And I'm proud of myself because I feel great. I feel great that it's a Sunday morning that I woke up and I was ready to record this podcast, that yesterday I spent all day working on personal projects like this, getting this outline ready to talk about it today. I feel good knowing that I'm productive. If I had boozed up on Friday night or Saturday night, I wouldn't be in the headspace and I wouldn't be able to create this podcast right now because I'd have to spend more time trying to really think things through. So like I said, much more aware of it, much more aware of how much I'm consuming. And most of the time that I'm consuming it, it's just with friends, a dinner, as I was saying, a concert, sporting event. But I definitely make sure to avoid drinking at all possible during business and networking environments because it helps me stay focused and helps me be on my A game. I don't want to regret saying something stupid. I don't want to stumbling my words and have this person I'm talking to be like, this guy's cocked. I want to be on my A game because I never know who I'm going to meet. I never know the opportunities that are going to be presented before me. And so being aware of how much I'm consuming and making sure that I'm not consuming in business environments is extremely helpful. I actually had my cousin chime in and say it's better to drink in business environments versus, than with friends or whatever. I guess that's a good perspective. I understand, the way you're looking at it, but I feel like I have in my system, don't ever sign a contract or don't do anything stupid under the influence of alcohol because you're not thinking clearly. Even if you've only had a couple, you still got to be very, very, very smart. A couple Bearded Man community questions. Pulled 5 great questions. Posted on my Instagram story, trying to see what people wanted to talk about. Joey Scher, 37. Does it take time and space to break the cycle of being addicted to drinking? This is a great question. Joey, I think it takes both. Like breaking any habit or creating any new one, it takes time, right? We don't see the direct benefits after day 1, day 2, day 3, day 10. This is something that we have to trust and believe is going to happen with time. And as long as we stay disciplined, as long as we take it one day at a time, we will break that addiction. It's baby steps. It's just one day at a time. Don't think about, I need to quit booze this whole year. Oh my God, that's so overwhelming. No alcohol for 365 days. No, one day at a time. I don't need it today. Get a calendar, cross off an X on the day that you didn't touch booze. Great. Let's move on to the next day. Same thing, cross off an X, one day at a time. Don't think about the big picture. It's going to be too overwhelming. Second, and the most important part is space. You need space to break the alcohol addiction or any addiction, in my personal bearded opinion. I think if someone's addicted to drinking and is trying to break away, we need space for 2 reasons. One, space away from people that influence us to do it. If you're around people that are peer pressuring you to drink, just have 1 beer, man, you'll be fine. Well, it's pretty easy to say yes, but if you're around people that will not even offer it to you, I think you're going to be in a better position because you're not going to be tempted to touch it. And number two, and more importantly, space to think. You got to get away from all the distractions, from all the noise in the world. Put down the phone, shut your laptop, shut off the TV, and just think. Just be alone and self-reflect and ask yourself on like, what do I ultimately want with this life? I spend so much time with this throughout the day, every day, throughout the week, just reflecting constantly on the actions and the decisions and the people that I'm around. And I think we really forget easily that this whole game of life is experience. It's just one experience, right? To me, it looks like just one big video game. I was a big video game kid growing up, and most recently, I'm like, we actually are just living a video game, right? Like, there's a lot of shit out there in the world to do. You can go do whatever you want. Be smart about it. Don't cause any harm to anyone, but you can pretty much do anything in this world you want. And so, I know it's like, oh, life's going to end. Oh, nobody wants to talk about that. Boo-hoo. But it's like, ladies and gentlemen, it's the reality. Stop acting like this whole shit is just not going to happen. I mean, I'm in my prime right now, right? Like, I keep trying to pinch myself every day. I'm 26 years young. I'm in the greatest shape I've ever been. I'm in the best mental headspace I've ever been. The beard has never looked better. I'm in my prime right now, and I'm trying to just stop worrying about getting to that next chapter, getting to the next thing, and just live in the moment, enjoy these experiences. Because this shit's going to come and go. And I'm just trying to be able to make sure that I look back and go, you know what? I lived every moment to the fullest that I could. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier, just like, with this whole life being an experience, there's so much beauty around us. Go read a book, go walk outside, talk to family members on the phone, grab coffee with an old friend. And I think realizing that and having the time to reflect also helps us be more present and being in the moment in our day-to-day life, which is extremely, extremely important. Jordan Tarver, 3 internal benefits of being sober for 30 days. Things you feel but people don't see. Great question. 1, most importantly, the whole 30 days of October made me realize that I can accomplish anything I set my mind towards, without a doubt. Doesn't matter how big or how small. If I set my mind towards it, I put in the work, and I stay disciplined, I can accomplish any goal, and I think anybody can do the same. Number 2 was overall gratitude to be healthy and breathing. Now that I wasn't throwing this toxic liquid into my body, I was very much more, healthier and just more appreciative of my breathing. And then thirdly, much clearer headspace for thinking, reflecting, and creating. There wasn't anything in my brain or in my body that was going to deter me away from thinking clearly, and it got rid of away of a lot of the fog. Even if you go out one night and you have a couple drinks, 3 or 4, the next day, the first couple hours, you got that fog. You might not be hungover, but you find it feel groggy. You got to take a shower, and you still kind of feel like shit, and you got to have some food. Getting rid of it just helped me have such a clear headspace. Ben Bradford, how easy is it for you to enjoy nights being sober compared to them when you were drinking? Great question. That's the problem. Sometimes we think we need alcohol to enjoy our night. As I said, I think it should be a cherry on top, unnecessary but appreciated if it is there. Once again, with cherry on top, this is like ice cream. You love the ice cream, but you put a little cherry on top, it's like, this is bomb. Without the cherry, you're still enjoying the ice cream, but with it, it's just an additional little piece, and it's good to have. It's easy to fit alcohol into just sitting around with the boys or the gals, have a couple of cold beers, maybe have a couple glasses of wine, whatever your fancy is. But, I don't need it. And I've realized that. It's much easier for me to enjoy every minute of the day just because I'm much more aware of just like my thoughts and my being present. And a lot of this is coming from meditation. When it comes to Saturday after a long productive week, there's nothing better than just kicking it with the boys. I didn't drink anything last night. I just watched the new Kevin Hart doc series on Netflix, which I highly recommend. And then I started watching a movie, but I didn't need any alcohol. I used to say I can rationalize and have a couple, but I knew I was recording this podcast today, and I just didn't want to have it. And ultimately, I've really, in the last couple of weeks, I've just grown to appreciate stillness and relaxation a ton without alcohol. Because it gives you that time to reflect. It gives you time to just breathe and to relax and think about the past week and think about where you're going. Think about the things you want to accomplish in your life and the big dreams that you have. So important. I saw on Friday night an artist that I'm a huge fan of, John Bellion, recording artist. He tweeted, "I attribute a ton of my quote-unquote success to taking enormous amounts of time off and getting a ton of sleep. And I think that's a great point. Slowing down the stillness. And I don't need to have a beer to have a good time. I know I'm kind of sidetracking a little bit, but I think this all funnels a way back in. So yeah, it's much easier for me now than in the past. I just realized I don't need it to be happy or to enjoy myself. It's a nice addition, but it is absolutely not necessary. Nick Sincata, what's the worst alcohol experience you've had? Great question, Nick. A funny story was when I was in the Bahamas for senior week. This is a crazy story. That was a crazy 5 days. There was one story where I'm going to give you two stories, a funny one and then not great. One was the funny one. I'm in the Bahamas. One time I'm laying, we go out one night, we're partying and black out, lost track of how much I was drinking. And I woke up. It was like out of a movie. I opened my eyes and I see the blue sky and it's not dark. It's very bright out. And I'm like, holy shit. So I look to my left. I'm on the beach. I look to my right. I'm on the beach. Nobody's around me. I'm laying on one of those beach chairs and I sit up like out of a movie. My buttoned up shirt is like half unbuttoned. Thank God I have my phone on me. My hair's all over the place. Nobody's around. And I'm just looking around like, what the hell just happened? So the best part is we had stayed on Atlantis, I think is the name of the big resort in the Bahamas. You can't make this shit up. Big resort. It's got multiple hotels on the same campus or whatever. So I go up to like one of the workers. I'm like, hey, I'm at this, I forget the name of it. I'm at this hotel. How do I get there? And she just looked at me, big eyes. She's like, oh, you're going to have to hop on the trolley. You're on the other side of the campus or the resort. I'm like, holy shit. How the hell did I get here? We were partying all over there all the night. What? Never figured it out. That's the funny story. Kind of. Depends on the way you look at it, but I think it's just, once again, Uber passenger, bad decisions make for great stories. And Nick, I tried to think of a not so good one. And I couldn't pinpoint like a specific, and in general, I just think there have been times where alcohol is involved, fights with friends, some really, some not fist fights, but like things get said, touches people's hearts. Next day, it's kind of like people apologizing for saying this or saying that. I've had those emotional breakdowns, as I was saying earlier. And yeah, I guess those are the two, but I couldn't really think of like one experience that was like the worst of it all. Tyler J., when did you realize it was a problem? It's social and fun to have, but when is it excessive? Fortunately or unfortunately, I think I realized it was a problem through other people's experience, as I was saying earlier. And seeing how it was affecting other people, I just took note of that. And I think a lot of Purpose in the Youth podcast, a lot of lessons that I've learned was listening to other people tell their story and taking note of that and going, okay, I know what to do if I'm ever in that situation. Learning through other experiences. A lot of times, and I really believe that we have to go out there and experience things for ourselves and not let people live our lives. We need to, make choices and live our lives and, see if that job works or see if we like that passion. But at the same time, there's certain things you have to take note of where it's like, I don't need to go live that. I need to just take note of how it affected one person and know that that's what could happen to me. So, I've never been at a point in my life, Tyler, where I felt I needed help. I've just had points where I told myself I should cut back. And once again, just being aware before it becomes a bigger problem. I think it becomes excessive when it's affecting other areas of people's lives. It's one thing, like you said, if you're out, social, it's fun, go. Have a great time. I hope you're enjoying yourself with wherever you're at. Hopefully the bearded man's in the building, throwing his hands in the air, all vibes, all energy, not being stupid. But, excuse me, I think it becomes I think it becomes excessive when it's affecting other areas of our lives, school, work, career, relationships, and most importantly, ourselves, both mentally and physically. That's when the red flag starts to come up, when we feel that we need to have it, that we have to have it in every setting possible, or we find a way to rationalize like, oh, well, we're going to that movie tonight, we could get a drink there. We're going to that event, we should have a drink. We're going out tonight, we got a pregame. When it becomes like this rational, you rationalize everything needs to incorporate alcohol, that's when it becomes a problem. So if you're out, having a good time with friends, it's one thing. But it's another thing when you're rationalizing, like, I need it for everything. I definitely want to point out one specific group of people that I've been fortunate to get involved with since moving to LA is a YouTube group by the name of Yes Theory. Some of you guys and gals might know of them. Some of you might not. But I will say this. What's been incredible about this group of people, and long story short, for those who don't know who Yes Theory is, they make incredible YouTube content that is inspiring people, that's helping people seek discomfort in their life for the right reasons, to chase that job you've always wanted to chase, to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. They do incredible vlogs of just like traveling around the world doing incredible things with incredible people. I've been very fortunate to go to a lot of their events in LA. And the one thing that I've always noticed about this group of people, some of the best nights I've ever had in LA, is that these events, most of the time, there's no alcohol. There's no alcohol to buy. There's no alcohol brought in. It's very much an alcohol-free environment. And I've had some of the best moments of my life. I've met some of the greatest people in LA through these events. And it just goes to show you that you don't need booze to be happy or to have fun. You just need great people, great energy, great conversations, and that's it. And so going to these types of events, it's made me go, you know what? Anytime I've ever thought, oh, you have to have alcohol, you don't. Once again, it's okay to incorporate it. I'm not saying cut drinking. I don't want anybody to think I'm here to make this podcast and say don't drink alcohol. I'm just here to shine light on being aware of how much you're consuming, why you're consuming, and ultimately the effects that it can have on your body. And then lastly, from Albert Garcia, at Albert Garcia, he said, we have to be responsible with it. Self-control is key to enjoy. Retweet, my brother. I love that, and I just wanted to add that in. So, takeaways from today's podcast. I think alcohol is completely fine to have in our lives as long as it's in moderation. That's all I'm going to say. Like, you drink as much as you want to drink. Just be very conscious of how much you're drinking and just make sure you moderate it. To me, drinking should be a treat or a reward to ourselves for crushing the week, celebrating big events in our life. We should be able to drink it and feel like we earned it. And I think that's the key to it. As I've said before, I've made stupid decisions in the past, and I'm here to own up to them. I'm here to be honest with you guys and gals that I have done dumb shit in the past. I've drank till I was blacked out unintentionally, got behind the wheel when I shouldn't have, or behind the wheel when somebody else shouldn't have. I've made a comment to people, or I made actions that I shouldn't have done. And so, yeah, I've learned from it. I can't control the decisions I made in the past, but I can control the decisions I make today and the decisions I make moving forward. Ask yourself, I think another takeaway is ask yourself if you'd still be hanging around certain people if you remove the alcohol. As I said before, alcohol brings people together for most of the time, a lot of the right reasons. But are you around these people for the right reasons? And if you're not, if you remove the alcohol and you don't see yourself still hanging with these people, that's a red flag. Be cautious of who you're spending your time with, because this is a one-shot deal, this whole life, this whole experience. But I think the biggest takeaway that I hope people get from this is you don't need it to survive. You do not need alcohol to survive. You will live great and be happy and be healthy without it. You'll feel 10 times better actually without it. As I said before, you make better eating decisions, clear headspace, more energy on a consistent basis. You sleep better at night, and you have more money in your pocket. So to me, ladies and gentlemen, that is a win, 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 win. 5 wins. It's fun. It tastes good. So if you're enjoying it, please do. But just know you don't need it to live. Ultimately, as I've said, be aware of how much you're consuming, how rapidly, and why. Is it to have fun with friends and enjoy the night? Please be my guest. Continue on. If it's to escape the weekday grind or other things that might be happening in our life, I'm not here to be your father, your mentor, or your therapist. I'm not here to tell you how to live your life. I'm just here to shine light on experiences that I've had and what I've learned from it. So I hope that was helpful. In wrap up of this episode, I got a side thing I want to talk about real quick is this is the last podcast ever to be recorded in this bedroom studio here at the Content Crib. And I'm happy that it was on a subject like this, something very personal, something I think, it can help people. But just want to acknowledge how incredible this room has been for me in my career. I've sat down and had conversations with some incredible people. If you're listening, great. If you're watching, exactly where the camera is placed right now is where I would be looking at for these guests for the last 100 plus episodes. And it's just been the most incredible place to learn and grow. And I'm so thankful for everything that this Bed Rudio and all the people that have come through for a podcast and have given me this shot to, record the conversations. After, as I said in the beginning of launching this podcast, this is a produce when I can podcast. There's no certain schedule. I'm just posting when I can create it. And I try not to even show you guys and gals too much of when I'm doing it. I just want to drop it when it comes out. But with this being the last podcast next week, and I'm, packing up and moving, we will go on a temporary, probably 1-2-ish weeks break, and then I'll get back into some type of rhythm. I'm definitely holding myself accountable for trying to put out as much as I possibly can create, but know that we will be on a little bit of a shutdown until I get into the new Bed Rudio, which I'm very excited about, at Content Crib 2.0. So you won't be seeing this visually. It'll be a different setup. I'm excited to kind of figure that out once I get moved in. I hope this podcast episode 3, alcohol, provided you guys and gals a little insight on my hot take for just alcohol in general, the experiences I've had, drinking and being aware, and how, I've personally seen it firsthand, how it's affected family members of mine, and how ultimately I've done some dumb shit, and I'm here to own up to it. And I'm hoping that, those out there listening can own up to their own mistakes or their own decisions and know that it's okay. What's happened has happened. Make that decision of who you want to be now, and just make that continuously moving forward. We all can change. That's totally fine. We can change. If this podcast was enjoyable to you at all, I ask, please screenshot this episode if you're listening on the audio. Take a picture if you're watching visually, or maybe a video of your favorite part, and please share it out on your Instagram story, telling your friends, family, hey, I just listened to this podcast. You should go check it out, and tag me at Bobbbaaaay. This helps us grow the Bearded Man community and is much appreciated. If I provided enough bearded wisdom in this episode, all I ask is that you please head to the iTunes podcast app. Type in It's the Bearded Man, scroll to the very bottom when you find my podcast, write a review, give it as many stars as you want, write just one word or one sentence. That would be so much appreciated. Helps, grow the ratings, the exposure, more credibility, and will help grow this pod. And like I said before at the top of the podcast at the beginning, we're at 5 stars across 12 reviews. I would love to be at 25 by the time episode 4 drops, which for you guys and gals is in a couple weeks. Like I said, we're going on a little break. So if you can, please take the time to write a review today. That would be so much appreciated. And of course, if you have a topic, subject you'd like me to cover next, shoot me a DM, shoot me a tweet, or shoot me an email and just let me know, something you want to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to It's the Bearded Man podcast. We will see you lovely, beautiful, sexy guys and gals very soon. It's yours, and it's the world's favorite bearded man, Bobbbaaaay. We'll see you soon. See ya!